So whilst I am quite literally watching paint dry, I'll show you. Quite literally watching paint dry so the dogs don't end up walking in it, because that would be absolutely disastrous. So yeah, while I'm watching paint dry, I decided to quickly record the collaboration vlog that is being hosted by Vicky from the Mad Lads, and the other family involved is Maria from the Richardsons Simple Living. So this vlog is about the pros and cons of home education groups and meetups. Now, I'm a huge fan of home ed groups, and if you've watched my prior vlogs, you will see that we do attend quite a lot of them. I say we as in the royal we, because Anthony really isn't into groups. So 9 times out of 10, I'm at home educating Anthony, and Nim's dad will take her wherever she needs to go because she is very sociable. And we wouldn't force an adult into a social setting that made them uncomfortable. So I'm not going to force my child into that setting either. So Anthony will do football because he goes to that with his cousin. It's an after school one and they're on the team together. So he will go to that because he does have the confidence and trust there to do so. He also does fishing every fortnight. But besides that, I'd need a crane to get him out the door or something, because there's no moving him. No moving. I'll probably put the camera in the worst place possible because the light blinded me, so I do apologise if I'm squinting at you. I have now moved the camera, but the angle isn't the most flattering. Now, most areas actually have a well-established home ed community, and you can find these online on other platforms such as FB, and I'm abbreviating due to censorship. And you can actually join the online groups before your child hits CSA, that's child school age, if you know that you're going to be home educating or you're interested in home education and finding out more information. Now, most groups, for obvious reasons, cater to CSA age and above. However, younger siblings do go along, so it's always worth popping a message to see whether younger siblings are going to be there, if any activities for that age group are taking place, because you may be able to take your child along regardless of age. You can, however, make those connections online in advance of CSA age, and you can arrange your own meetups and play dates as well. And this seems to come up as a negative on occasion, so I thought that was just worth mentioning. And there's loads of casual groups and meetups as well, and they tend to take place during the day, so during normal school hours, I guess. And you go along, and there's sometimes be various activities set out. It's more of a social gathering with play opportunities and learning-based play opportunities. They're really great fun. There's also park meetups as well. They're brilliant. We do like them, and some of them will also have private school aspects incorporated, because of some of them the parents can bring along different activities and they'll all do them together. They may take it in turns each week for a small donation for resources, but they can be a brilliant place to go, socialise, play and learn as a group in a group situation. Now, a lot of areas will post their events, groups and meetups online, and it will say on them the age they're aimed at, because obviously if we're going to somewhere like a refuse centre, a recycling centre, something like that, you know, or even some of the workshops at the museums, they are planned out to be set up for certain key stage skills. So when we go along to them, they do cater to set age groups, so that can be a bit more difficult, but on occasion you can still take along younger siblings, so again, it's worth asking. Now, another strong pro for the group situation is that there's so many to choose from, so many activities. One day they can do swimming, the next day ice skating, the next day doing football or gaming clubs. The list is endless. There's drama clubs, circus skills clubs. I could literally go on. English club, book clubs, honestly, there's science clubs, there's all sorts available to them in the home ed community, and it can be really hard to fit it all in. Sometimes it feels like all I do is navigate getting them to groups and making sure she can get there, and obviously your dad, who's running her around everywhere, feels like he never stops. He's going from group to group to group some days. But she's so active and so social that she thrives in that learning situation, in that environment, and she loves those social groups, and she loves meeting with her friends there, building up those bonds and then friendships. Whereas I tend to stay at home with Anthony, so I'm just watching the wasp buzzing around. Watching paint dry is so tedious. And a lot of these groups are actually set up by the parents. So if there's a group or an activity that your child fancies and you can't find a group for that, you can actually set that up for yourself. And I think that's a great pro, because the community will support you in that, and you will tend to find that other children will be interested and will join that group and attend. And obviously that shares the cost of the resources then for that activity as well, which is another strong pro too. And another strong pro is that in the majority of these groups, the parents are there. You don't leave your child, you don't just drop off and go, you stay with your child, so you're there throughout. So you don't tend to see the bullying situations arise that you get in mainstream education, where there's a lot of opportunity for that to happen in unsupervised situations. In the home ed groups, the parents are always on hand. So yes, obviously disputes do occur. That's natural day-to-day life, that's human nature, it happens. But the parents are there to quickly step in and help the child navigate those emotions and demonstrate and model that behaviour of conflict resolution in real time. So you tend to find that the children develop these skills quite quick and naturally themselves. And sometimes the older siblings will step in and help with that as well. It's beautiful. It is a community. And I've never seen any of the violent, petty, vindictive behaviours that I experienced when my children were in the school system. I've never seen any of that in a home ed group. Yes, there's been little issues here and there, but they've always been quickly resolved. And I've never seen anything that's made me worry about the safety of my children or their well-being mentally and emotionally when they're in them settings. There's never been any red flags for that for me. So again, that's another strong pro in my opinion. And at these groups, they get the opportunity to mix with a wide age range, and that includes the parents too. And in addition to that, we actually encourage them to question us, have conversations with us, and we will sit and have meaningful, deep conversations with them about a variety of topics. For instance, the other day, my son was sat talking electronics to someone, and it went on for ages, and this person was an electrical engineer. So we was quizzing him and finding out so much information from that interaction. It was actually really nice to see how enthusiastic he was about it. But as I said, we encourage questioning. We encourage them to come to us with questions, and we encourage them to actually turn around and say, well, actually, that's not wrong. When I've looked into this, I found such and such out, blah, 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 and share their information. Whereas in a school setting, you don't really get that to and fro communication. It's these are the facts, don't question them. If you question them, you're being rude and disrespectful. And it shuts down any free thought and independent thinking, which is highly encouraged. And obviously, again, when you're in such a wide age range setting, because it can go from very young, due to younger siblings, right the way up to 16 in some groups, they're learning and developing amazing interpersonal communication skills the entire time they're there. And again, as mentioned before, another pro is the shared resources of these groups. And also when you're going on day trips and events out and about, there's the shared cost of booking as a group as well. So you do tend to save a lot of money by going along to these groups, building up them connections and jumping in on them events and experiences for your children too. And I have to say, my children have had some of the most amazing experiences in their life since home educating, and they wouldn't have had those same opportunities had they remained in the school system. For instance, Tyler went away for a month to Spain with other home educated kids with a program called Interway, and she had an amazing experience there. She really did. They rang home every day, but she loved every second of it. And they were teaching Spanish teenagers conversational English, and the Spanish teenagers were teaching them conversational Spanish. And it was brilliant. She absolutely loved it. Loads of team building games, confidence building. They did lots of mindfulness workshops, and oh, it was brilliant. She absolutely loved it, and she got so much from it. And she also got to travel as well and see a little bit of the world independently. She was only 15 then too, but she had a fantastic time. But again, these amazing groups and opportunities can also be a con if you've got more than one child, because it can quickly add up. There is usually sibling discounts, but it can be a case of picking and choosing and prioritising what you want to do and how you want to do it, because it is endless and it is all optional. So you don't have to do all of this, but you can choose to if that's where your child's interests take you. And again, you've also got the online options as well, haven't you? Because there's the £2 tuition hub, just off the top of my head, OutSchool, and they run online classes where the children can socialise and mix and mingle whilst they're also learning online too. but obviously you can remain in the room for online safety precautions too. Now you tend to find that the places like the casual park meetups and everything, they're free. And there's also a lot, like I said, there's also a lot of free groups and meetups that do take place, so you don't have to spend anything other than obviously your travel costs to get there, and maybe a picnic if you feel like taking one along, or some snacks. But again, there are ways of doing this on a budget where you don't have to be paying out them high cost fees. I think our most expensive ones is Nim's Irish dancing and a ice skating, and probably a swimming lessons too, to be fair. They tend to be most expensive activities, hobbies. One definition of socialisation is the act of being with others for pleasure. That is a huge pro for the home-ed groups and the home-ed community. And my teenagers, who are now 18 and 19 years old, they were home educated also. They still regularly meet up with their home-ed friends, those that they made that connection with. They still have that deep bond with them. They socialise actively together, they go out for the night together, they even go camping together on occasion. So they do still have that close relationship that people worry the children wouldn't have if they were removed from the school system. And that is despite living in different counties. So obviously my daughter's away at university up north. She does come home though regularly, and obviously she meets up with her friends then, but despite that they talk daily on the phone, and they have kept up that friendship and that support level. I mean, they've all helped each other through their exams as well, setting up study evenings. And it's just been amazing to see that that bond and that support and that network has continued since leaving home education and going on to further education. And yes, one of the cons is that it's always intimidating when you join a new group, especially when the parents and children already seem to know each other. And I've lived in multiple counties now and home educated in multiple counties, actually 2 countries and 3 counties. And I still get those nerves. I think it's perfectly natural. We all do when we go into that new social environment. And in my experience, it just takes time to build up those relationships and those bonds. But it's definitely worth persevering with if you are a sociable person. But again, like I said before, not everyone is. And we don't force adults into social situations they're not comfortable with. And we shouldn't do that to children either. And you will eventually meet friends that you connect with in the home ed community that understand you, meet your needs, and are on your level and very like-minded. And that may be online, or it may be in real life, but that support will be there and you will meet your people. And obviously, as I mentioned earlier, these groups have parents and families from all walks of life, all backgrounds, all cultures. It's very diverse and very inclusive. But obviously that means that not everyone's going to be on your wavelength. There's a lot of different personalities there, a lot of different interests, a lot of different hobbies. And yes, sometimes you don't gel with somebody and it can feel quite intimidating at first, but you will find people that you do gel with more yourself. It does take time. And again, yes, we're all united by being home educating parents and having a lot of those same values, but there's also a lot of different philosophies in the home ed community too. So it's all about taking the time to find what group feels right to you and your family, meet your needs, because that is where you're very much likely to find the people who you do gel with and who your children gel with too. It's just quite natural, really. It's about letting those relationships build naturally, and that will happen with time. And I suppose that could be seen as a con. However, as a home educating parent, we all know how we try and turn everything into an educational opportunity, or at least my children would tell you that I do. But I see this again as another educational opportunity, teaching our children how to navigate those relationships, how to navigate those times where they do feel intimidated in those situations, or they feel that they're struggling to make friends. And Nim's dad can even struggle with that at times. He can find it quite intimidating walking into a big group of people that he doesn't know, and he can feel quite on the outside looking in. Sometimes he does struggle with that social interaction at times. So it does happen to us all, and even I get nervous walking into a group situation, like I said earlier, but I do enjoy that them social opportunities in moderation, because I do get very overwhelmed quite easy myself, and I do need that time away in solitude as well, because I get very overwhelmed socially sometimes. So I like it in small doses. Now where I'm living now, I do feel quite lucky socially with the homemade community. It's a very supportive group. The children are all lovely, and my children just thrive when they're with them. They absolutely love spending time with them, and the mums and dads are so wonderful. Like, we are genuinely so lucky to have the community that we have here. But I know a few online have had a few issues in the past, and it does come up, it does get mentioned, and it does get talked about occasionally, but it is a rarity. It is really rare, because the majority of the time everyone comments on how welcoming and inclusive and diverse the homemade community is. So the general consensus in the community is that the groups are welcoming, inclusive, and very friendly. So please don't worry if you're new to home ed and you're thinking of popping along to a group. Don't let this make you panic in any way, shape or form. We just have to mention cons. So that was one of the ones that I mentioned. It is so rare that that happens, because 9 times out of 10 home educators will always welcome you into that group, and you will be at ease pretty soon, especially once you see your children off enjoying themselves too. And in my opinion, the biggest pro the home ed community has is its kinship. It is amazing. It is an amazing support network, and you do feel like everyone has your back, especially when it comes to problems with the LA or anything like that. They will all rally around you and offer you support, and there are some fantastic groups out there dedicated to offering that support too, such as HEFA, Home Education for All, Education Otherwise, and I've mentioned a few others in prior vlogs as well. So let me know your pros and cons on home education groups in the comments below. And don't forget to watch the other videos in the collaboration. I will try and link them in the description for you. It'll probably work on YT, but not on TT. But I'll give it a whirl. So head on over to Vicky from the Mad Lads and Maria from the Richardsons Simple Living, and check out their vlogs, because they have different angles on it all together, and it can be nice to get that wide range, well-rounded perspective on it all as well. Unfortunately, I don't think them families are on TikTok. I'm not sure. They are on, I know Mad Lads is on Instagram, but I'm unsure about any other social media links. But I will link the collaboration videos in the description on YT. So thanks for watching. I'm going to quickly check on this paint, because it's now looking dry. I've rabbited on that much.